This video is going to cover the topic of more tape diagrams. Be sure the date and topic are at the top of your page. The essential question for this video is how else do we use tape diagrams to model and interpret ratios? And as we know by now, I love using tape diagrams to look at the ratio of data. As a reminder of how we use these, right, here's an example. The ratio of bike riders to bus riders to our school is, let's say, 4 to 5. That means for every 4 students who ride their bike, there are 5 students who ride the bus. However, that doesn't mean that there are only 4 students riding their bikes and 5 students riding the bus, right? We have more than 9 students who come to school here using either bike or bus. In fact, let's say the total number of students is 180, right? 180 students, much more than the 9 represented in my ratio. But I can use a tape diagram to model this information, right? So for the bike riders, I can use 4 blocks, and I'll use 5 blocks for the bus riders. And I know that this represents, at the moment, 180 students, but I know that there are 4 plus 5. There are 9 boxes, right? So I'd say 180 split into 9 gives me 20, which means each of these boxes represents the number 20 in both the bike riders and the bus riders, right? And with that information, I can figure out how many total students there are for each. And of course, that would be 80 bikers and 100 bus riders, right? So that tape diagram helped me kind of process and break down the information based on what the data was. The next example is slightly different, right? So here we have the ratio of likes to dislikes on a YouTube video, such as this, might be 8 to 3, right? So that means likes comes first. There are 8 likes for every 3 dislikes. If we know how many people liked the video, we can use a tape diagram to figure out how many disliked the video, even though we don't know the total. And I'll have my tape diagram to help me figure that out. And just like before, I've set up a tape diagram with 8 spaces for the likes and 3 for the dislikes to represent the ratio of 8 to 3. And if we know that 56 people liked the video, that's not the total, right? So that's not this. We don't know this part. What we know is that this represents 56 people, right? And we know that there's 8 boxes here. So I'm going to just do 56 divided by 8. And that will tell me that there's 7 people represented by each one of these boxes, right? So it's just like before, where we know how much one box is representing. So with that information, we can figure out how many people disliked the video, right? So there'd be 7 here. And so we now know that this represents 21 people who disliked the video, right? And we can even go one step further and we can say, well, there were 56 plus the 21 who didn't like it. And even though I wasn't initially looking for this, I now know that there were 77 people total who voted, right? Either upvoted or downvoted or liked or disliked, right? And that's a total. So what that means is if we know the ratio and true value of one category in the ratio, one part of it, that's enough information for us to get the value of the other category. And in this case, also, the total number of people that were involved in this survey or response. For your turn, we're going to think about our local basketball team here, right? So if the Blazers, Nurkic, someone on the Blazers, has a ratio of rebounds to steals that's 11 to 2, so for every 11 rebounds, he has 2 steals, and he had 121 rebounds last month, how many steals did he have? And so I'm going to ask you to draw your tape diagram and then use that to justify your answer. And of course, this is an example of a case where we know one true value in the ratio, but we don't know the total. It doesn't matter though, we still have enough information to find the missing part. And that goes back to our essential question of how else we can use tape diagrams to model and represent ratios. And we saw that with the tape diagram, not only can we determine each of the parts if we know the total, but we can also determine one of the missing parts if we just know the other. So be sure to have this your turn complete and bring any questions you might have to class.